This is Business and Economy Network.
Hello, wonderful viewers. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of your program, our program, Business and Economy Network. My name is Ohioze Edna. Today, we'll be bringing you a peculiar ministry and its agencies. Many have heard about them, many have seen them, but not many know their functions, their impacts, and how important they are to human life. We bring you the Federal Ministry of Environment and its agencies. On our program rundown, we bring you the Honorable Minister herself, Amina J. Mohammed, on Ministry in Focus. And on Spotlight, we bring you the Director General, Chief Executive Officer, National Environmental Standard and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESREA. And on Special Reports, we bring you the Director General, Chief Executive Officer, National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NESREA. It promises to be an eye-opener. We'll be right back.
Information is very good, they said, but right information is very vital, especially to your business. Why not join us on Business and Economy Network, where you learn more about business information.
Year 2000 through 2005 saw the creation of Millennium Development Goals, but in 2010 there came up a need for another set of sustainable development goals. These goals were necessary to aid our development as a nation. When a deep look is taken into what was achieved by the Millennium Development Goals, Honorable Minister for Environment Amina J. Mohammed was appointed by the United Nations to lead and ensure that these goals be realized.
Well, in the year 2000, the United Nations had put together a set of 8 goals, the Millennium Development Goals, and they were to be achieved by 2015. But there was in 2010 a call on the United Nations Secretary General to put in place the process for achieving a new set of goals, building on the success, the gaps, the challenges, the new narrative for what we needed to respond to for the next 15 years. So in 2012, after the Rio meeting, I was appointed to lead on behalf of the Secretary General the United Nations systems response to shaping those goals. And that's over a period of 4 years. And we did that with the member states who were in the driving seat. That's 193 member states who you needed to find a consensus around a number of responses that would be formulated in a set of goals. This was the largest gathering and process, interactive process, inclusive process, collective effort to get a set of goals that the world believed would respond to all of its problems that were of urgency.
The kidnapping of Chibok girls 2 years ago brought up the Bring Back Our Girls catchphrase, which has dominated the media since then, and which also involved the interface of the First Lady of the United States. The federal government is at this time offering consolation and empathy to the parents of the girls who were suddenly denied a better future in Nigeria. The present administration is not wary regarding efforts to bring back the girls.
Well, this is a visit that was incredibly sad and painful. The one thing the president will always want to do is wake up in the morning, review the efforts that this administration is making towards trying to get the girls liberated, and have good news for parents. This is a very painful experience, and so for us, we didn't have that good news on the anniversary of the 2 years. And the best that we could do was to be in solidarity with those parents, to go down as a delegation from the president, and really to reinforce the commitment government has for trying to bring back the girls. The Chibok girls are also, as it would be, a point in time where that tragedy also represents so many more tragedies that continue to happen in the Northeast with the abduction of girls and women. But it brings to light issues of security, of poverty, of inequality, so many things that they are standing for. And I think having to listen to the parents, their concerns, their frustrations, their pain, I think it just reinforces everyone that something has to be done faster I think that this administration is doing the best that it possibly can with what it inherited, and we will continue to do that every day. It's never good enough until those girls are back. That's the truth. I'm a mother of 4 daughters, and I think you just cannot say it's good enough until the girls are back.
The Ministry of Environment has its upgrading done over the years to ensure better performance. However, during this present administration, the ministry is saddled with the ability of working with 13 departments, offering skills in areas of technology and support. There are also 8 agencies that actually carry out issues related to environment, all to aid development in Nigeria.
The Environment Ministry started off as an agency, FEPA, in 1988, and it metamorphosized into the institution that we see here today, the Ministry of Environment. At one point it did have housing with it, and then that went back again. But it is basically a ministry that has a policy interface with our 13 departments, but those departments are both technical and support. Then it has 6 agencies and a program, and I think that it's the interface between that policy and the programs to carry out what it stands for, which is really about protecting the environment, the policies and the regulations that we put to reinforce that to happen. And then more recently, it's been about taking climate action, because that's suddenly a very big reality that's been looming for many years, but only really came to a global understanding that this is real and actions have to be taken when we sign when the Paris Agreement was agreed at the end of the year.
You are watching Business and Economy Network. What a reliable way of getting an incisive, informative information to help you in your business. Stay tuned.
National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency was formed in 2015 to monitor oil spill challenges in Nigeria. Also, the organization is seen as the main framework for the activation of National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. The agency is formed to manage the 3 tiers of oil spill in Nigeria.
Yes, the agency with the acronym NESREA was formed by an act of the National Assembly in October 2015, and principally NESREA was structured to be the infrastructure for the management of oil spill in the country, generally, and also as the main framework for the activation of the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, which we refer to as NOSIP. The National Oil Spill Contingency Plan is a framework, which is owned wholly by the federal government for management of spills that are in the category of what you call Tier 3. We have 3 tiers or 3 types of oil spill. The ones each individual oil company can manage by itself. Then the Tier 2, which calls for cooperation between these oil companies, in a cooperative, as it is. Then when it exceeds Tier 2, it becomes a national issue, and we are also in charge of transboundary, responses to oil spills that might cross our territorial waters, so we cooperate with other countries too. Nigeria is also a signatory to the OPROC Convention of 1990, and so we are affiliated to GI WACAF as well as the IMO. Yes.
Activists in Ogoniland have been able to bring the hazard faced by areas such as the Niger Delta to the front line, not just to the Nigerian government, but internationally. For years, complaints brought on by local people have made companies like Shell leave the areas, which led to the vandalization of these oil companies. The results were massive oil spillage and wildfires, which were detrimental to the existence of people's life and resources in the areas affected.
Well, Ogoni, if you look at the Ogoni area, today Ogoni is in the world map. If you look at any map in the world, you'll see a red spot, and that spot is Ogoni land. Primarily because the people have reacted and responded to this issue of environmental degradation and pollution. We have a lot of activists in the past, people like Ken Saro-Wiwa and others who brought the area to the front line, our front burner. The Ogoni land specifically spans an area of about 1,000 square kilometers, and it's in the heart of the rainforest. The vegetation is varied, from the mangroves, to the thick rainforests, very tall vegetation, as well as swamps. We have rivers, and also a very fertile land for agriculture. I recall that in those days when I was a young man, as a copper, Ogoni used to be the breadbasket of River State, with very big yam, name it, and it's there, and even fish. So, but the SPDC, is the main operator, that has been working in Ogoni land over the years. And notably, we have a major pipeline, which is called the Trans-Niger Pipeline, which moves from across to Ogoni land to Bonny, actually to the export terminal in Bonny. And it's around that pipeline infrastructure that you have a lot of these incidents. Now, between 19 and 22 years ago, because of the upsurge of reactions from the people, Shell was forced to leave that area. And the way and manner which they left the area created room for concern, because there was no formal, closure of some of the facilities and decommissioning. So most of the infrastructure remained, in a state of, what would I say, a kind of flux, where, it's neither here nor there. So at that time, because of, the reactions, especially of the youth, the main practice then was to go and dig out some of these pipelines, cut them. Even many of them were sold out in my three markets in Port Harcourt for building materials. But the outfall of such reactions is a lot of oil, residual oil in the pipelines, and those manifolds that are not properly closed out. Christmas trees that were actually tampered with. So, because of hunting for some of these building materials, a lot of pipelines were cut, a lot of fire. And the Trans-Niger pipeline too, there was a major disaster, that led to the, outflow of over 250,000 barrels of crude oil into the environment. Now, Ogoni is a lowland area, and it is generally believed that the oil wells there are shallow. They're not very deep, so they're economically viable. So a lot of oil was spilled into the environment and ended up in the swamps. And lying side by side too, between Ogoni and Okrika areas, you have the refinery. The refinery too is also another, cause of spillage of refined products. In fact, one of the major findings of the UNEP report, also emphasized that in some areas, in Eleme areas, we find that levels of benzene were very, very, very high. If I may quote them, up to 900 times the permissible limits. And so some of these materials also contain heavy metals, most of which are carcinogenic. So the UNEP reports, after a 3-year study, came up with very serious findings, damaging reports on the environment of the Ogoni land. One of the underlying factors is, again, if you look at the lithography of the soil, ordinarily the type of soil we have in those areas, there's supposed to be an underlying layer of clay that may be impervious to the movement of crude oil into the groundwater system. But the area, the Ogoni, lithography shows that layer of clay is discontinuous. So in some areas where where there are breakages, oil is able to flow into the groundwater. So the groundwater is also severely polluted. The result is that there's a general loss of livelihood, loss of occupation, loss of hunting and fishing rights, and all those things, and which has created a lot of militancy and tribal conflicts among the people of Ogoni land. So this is all I can say for now.
To get insights, views, and critics
on key players on various sectors of the Nigerian economy. Watch Business and Economy Network.
As a parastatal of the federal government of Nigeria, the National Environmental Standard and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESREA, was created in 2007 to fill a gap in implementing and making sure the environmental laws were applied and properly adhered to.
NESREA, I earlier said, is an acronym for the full name, National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency. By that full name, it's almost like telling you what we do. NESREA is an enforcement agency, a parastatal of the Federal Ministry of Environment. NESREA came on board in 2007 by an act of parliament or the National Assembly, signed into law in that 2007 by the then president, late Musa Yar'Adua. You know, we came on board then to take care of what we might call like a gap in the area of implementation and enforcement of environmental laws. We've had before then, over the years, what was Federal Environmental Protection Agency, FEPA, when FEPA became part of the Federal Ministry of Environment. After a while, it was realized there's a bit of a lacuna that enforcement, whose primary responsibility would be to enforce the environmental laws, and that's how NESREA came on board in 2007.
Environmental hazard, which includes various sorts of pollution and degradation of areas where companies like mining operators or oil sector firms operate, is a challenge here in Nigeria and in other nations. Here in Nigeria, NESREA, that is, the National Environmental Standard and Regulation Enforcement Agency, continues to work with various other arms of the organization to carry out various mandates that helps NESREA and other agencies achieve its goals on environmental issues.
Yes, but let's first understand what is environmental hazard. You mentioned you have the pollution. It could be air pollution, it could be land pollution, it could be water pollution. We also have different forms of degradations. You know, could be the degradation of the land, you know, degradation of mining areas and all that. So the hazard, as it is when what's supposed to be safe becomes a threat to health and the environment. So a lot of environmental hazards been recognized, and we've had various cases of what you might call emerging hazards too. But the responsibility of the agency is to identify these hazards, those that are coming on board, and those already existing, how we can work with the stakeholders to address them. Pollution in our environment, what some call our various ecosystems. Well, let's take it from the national level.
Okay.
There are other sister agencies. You know, NESREA zone is more on the enforcement. And enforcement will take care of, we develop the regulations, then we enforce the regulations. Excuse me. But in doing that, it's something we must do in collaboration with sister agencies. Within the ministry, we have NESREA, you know, taking care of the oil sector, oil and gas sector. You also know about, we have the SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, to do with quality of products. We have SMEDA, the small and medium scale industries. You also have the Consumer Protection Council. You see, these organizations have their own different mandates. What we do is to leverage on their own mandate as it relates to what we're doing now. What we did is to bring together Standard Organization of Nigeria because of product control. We did that to do, how do we control influx of used items into Nigeria, things coming into Nigeria really as waste. A typical example is what we call the e-waste, that's electronic waste. A lot of these are being imported into Nigeria. Some are already dead on arrival, and some are what is called near end of life. So for us to have a good control, we need to create such alliance of other similar agencies and work closely with them. We also work closely with the Nigerian customs, because Nigerian customs is at the port, the seaport, the airport and our borders. We work closely with them. What we are doing with them more to do also control what is coming into Nigeria as waste. We work closely with the Nigerian police. That is clear, because we have to do enforcement, and the police need to understand why environment. If we are going for field enforcement, we need some form of police escort. So they need to understand what we're doing. We do closely with them. We formed what we also call the National Dump Watch. The National Dump Watch will bring together, anytime we activate, there's an alert system, the Navy, the Department of Military Intelligence, the police, the customs, the Ports Authority. That one is essentially, Dump Watch program is to monitor our borders, our sea borders, to ensure that any illegal shipment coming into Nigeria in terms of electronic waste, hazardous chemicals and all that, there's a control.
Welcome back, viewers. Hope you had a wonderful time. You agree with me that life begins and ends with environment. Thank you so much for your calls, for your messages. For those making inquiries, we'll surely get back to you. This is the much time we permit us to take. Let's do this again. Same time, same station next week. We love you and God bless you. Bye.